All right. Well, welcome everyone to today's session, Revitalize Library Programs with Teach Britannica. My name is Chris Heinz. I am the Director of Customer Experience here at Britannica. My background is as a high school social studies teacher. I got my career in education started in Chicago Public Schools. I've then bounced around to, a few different places in the ed tech space, but I've been at Britannica for about 3 years. My job is really to make sure that folks who have access to our resources have all the training and support needed to get the most out of those resources. With me is my wonderful colleague, Christy Bengali.
Hi everyone, I'm Christy Bengali. I'm a curriculum learning specialist here at Britannica, and I did a lot of work on the wonderful Teach Britannica site that you're going to see today. I'm really excited to share that with you. My background is in world language teaching and all things instructional tech, ranging from K-12. I've been with Britannica now for just about a year, so I'm really excited to come to you today and share with you one of our new platforms.
Thank you, Christy. I muted myself and then I couldn't find the mute button again. So we're good to go now. You'll also see a name here on our panelists list, Julie Schuster. Julie, not to put you on the spot here, but do you want to briefly introduce yourself as well?
Getting myself off mute there. Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Julie Schuster. I'm the product manager on Teach Britannica. I work closely with Christy on creating the resource for you. And I've been with Britannica for about 20 years now. So I've been in the ed tech industry for quite some time. So thanks everyone for joining us today.
Awesome. Thank you, Julie. So I'm just here to be kind of the vessel to deliver the content here. But Christy and Julie, you have the real experts with Teach Britannica. So hopefully we'll give you kind of a good overview of how you can utilize this new resource to help support the programs that you're doing in the public library space. I know it's called Teach Britannica, but we are all educators here, and I know your programs that you do, you can certainly pull a lot of content from this resource. So really excited to share it with you. Teach Britannica is brand new. This just launched about 4 weeks ago. So it's hot off the presses, and we will jump right in to give you kind of a quick overview for how you can best utilize this. So as we go through today, I'll talk a little bit about who we are at Britannica Education. We'll go into kind of the Britannica library space and how Teach Britannica can help you. And then we'll share some action items, some worked examples and next steps as well, and really open things up for Q&A so that folks are able to share ideas with one another. A lot of times in sessions like this, the really valuable pieces are where you're sharing with your colleagues, and something that you have to say might be something that someone else has to hear or would like to hear in that moment. So please feel free to share your experiences as well as we go through today. So at Britannica Education, our purpose is really to empower educators. We want to create meaningful learning experiences to ignite curiosity in their students. And so, how we do this is through a very diverse collection of digital solutions. We have solutions for the classroom, solutions for the library, for the higher ed space, for multilingual learners. So, we really worked to develop a very nice suite of resources to help support all of our customers' needs. We have tailored customer support. So, my team is working with a lot of our partners to make sure that we're not only providing support, but also getting feedback from customers as well, to make sure that, if you have feedback that you want to share with us, that it gets directly to our friends who are developing these resources. And then we provide professional learning opportunities as well. So my team, we work really hard to deliver professional learning, high quality experiences to take that to the next step, right? Whether it's training around product or whether it is something that's a little bit more topical or focused on kind of what we call a product adjacent training to really help support educators in the space. So we just like to lead off and talk a little bit about who we are as an organization, what we believe in, and just keep that in mind as we go through. Everything that we've developed is really based around this motto, and this is kind of our mission here at Britannica. I'll kick it over to Christy, let her talk a little bit more specifically about kind of the guiding principles of Teach Britannica.
Sure. Thanks, Chris. You hit on some really key elements there, and to echo your sentiments, Teach Britannica is a dedicated teacher resource hub that really is designed to integrate, as Chris mentioned, our Britannica solutions into classrooms, libraries, and daily practices. And we believe that we really found a way to do that by offering a variety of easy to implement, time-saving resources for you all that we're so excited to share today. As you can see here, Teach Britannica is grounded in 5 core design principles that were really the fundamental grounding features behind all of the resources you'll see today in our design process. First, we provide both digital and non-digital options across all of our resource types. We design with the notion of promoting student-centered learning. All of our resources employ evidence-based practices and are grounded in tried and true principles. We really are dedicated, as Chris mentioned, to supporting professional learning and development, and really emphasizing our commitment to inclusive education that's woven through our resource design, as you'll see as well in our various differentiation and variation modules. We really feel that these 5 principles and foundations are what enhance this teaching and learning experience that we're going to share with you for ways that you can bring to your library patrons, excuse me. But we challenge you to really be those experts today, and you're gonna have some time to explore on your own and let us know what resources really resonate with you and your patrons.
Awesome. Thank you, Christy. So as you said, we'll challenge you to participate here. So if you don't mind, in the webinar chat, I do want to pose this question to everyone who is here. And please feel free to share your responses. We'll give you a couple minutes to kind of think through this. But we really want to hear from you. What types of resources do you look for when you plan your library programs? So I'm going to leave that pretty open-ended and just kind of ask you, what types of resources, where do these resources come from? Kind of, whatever answers you have here, feel free to share those in the chat, and then we will move forward. All right, so curriculum curriculum supports interactive activities that will engage students, content built around research. Absolutely. I know I really like the programs that they've been doing at my local library in Naperville, Illinois. My 2-year-old, they do a music program every Wednesday, and he absolutely loves it. And so I appreciate very much the public library space and the work that all of you do to entertain not just my children, but the children, across the country. In addition to, obviously grown-ups as well. But I do really appreciate those. All right, so cost for sure, how easily a project can be done, planning for older adults, and not all projects are senior friendly, absolutely. So that certainly is something that we can address here as well. You have another minute here for folks to respond. Yes, for a school setting, making sure things are SAPA compliant, of course. All
Well, I
right,
think there's something for everyone here today, Chris.
I think so. I think we've got a really good base to go off of, and thank you all for sharing your thoughts in the chat. I'll bury the lead here on the cost a little bit as we talk about Teach Britannica, knowing in the school, in the library space, budgets can be tight. So providing as much resource as possible here with Teach Britannica. So let's go ahead and jump in. So I guess I won't bury the lead that much. Teach Britannica is an open access free resource. for all educators across all subject areas, across all institutions, right, in the library, in the public school system, private school system. It is an open access resource that's really designed to pair really well with Britannica's trusted online content. And so when we're looking at these library programs, we will talk today about 3 key resource types that are really designed to do a lot of the things you talked about, to be really easy to implement, to be applicable across many different groups of students and patrons, and really try to streamline some of the work that you're doing in your institutions as well. So the first one here we'll talk about, and I'll do a brief overview, and then Christy will share her deeper insight as well. But the first piece here are these instructional strategies. These are really built to provide kind of a flexibly implemented lesson that is built around specific topics that are really relevant to K-12 students, adult learners, really across the entire spectrum here. And so these are flexibly implemented. We provide procedures, we provide graphic organizers, we allow to filter by grade level, by type of strategy, but again, really designed to be flexibly used to help support the work that you're doing in the classroom and in the library space as well. Christy, anything you wanted to share in addition to that about our instructional strategies?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head with those. These are really just great tried and true practices that can be applied across content area, across disciplines for a variety of age groups.
All right. I like hitting the nail on the head. I try to be as efficient as possible. You can probably tell I'm a social studies teacher. I do tend to be a little wordy and verbose sometimes, but I also do, I know we appreciate brevity, so trying to move forward quickly here. So we'll move to our next resource, graphic organizers. These have always been a really popular piece of what we've previously offered in our asset library. But these graphic organizers, there are 72 of them. Again, they're tailored to specific grade bands and products. We know that device fatigue is real, so these are all printable. They're also available to be used as a fillable PDF form in the digital space as well. But we've really tried to refresh these, make these engaging, right, to help to simplify some of those complex ideas for your students and patrons as well. Christy, anything to add here?
You're going to have a little time to explore later. And one of the things I really love about how these are organized on Teach Britannica is their view, which is very different from how they were previously on the asset library. We do have a really robust collection of 72 graphic organizers, as Chris mentioned, but all of them have a unique preview that you can look at before downloading them, which is really nice. And it kind of helps you sorting through that menu a little bit easier so that you can kind of key in on those graphic organizers that really can support what you're looking for. Not only did some of our previous graphic organizers receive a new facelift, which is really nice, we did add a bunch to our collection, which really kind of hone in more on study skills, note-taking strategies, some sketchnoting, some reading supports. So we encourage you to look at some of the new ones as well that we're really excited to have added.
Awesome. Yeah, I once did a workshop for a school district in the western suburbs of Chicago and showed them the asset library with all the graphic organizers laid out. And one of the ladies in the room, I don't think she heard a word I said for the rest of the session because she just pointed and clicked and downloaded every single graphic organizer that there was. And when she left, she said it was the best professional development that she'd ever been to. So if you've been on a training with me before, you've probably heard that story, but I'd just like to reiterate it because it is a really popular piece of what we've offered and something that I think we've refreshed to be really usable in the library space also. All right, the last resource, and this is something we are going to show you a worked example here in just a little bit. These are our lesson minis. And one of the things that you'll notice in Teach Britannica is that currently the way this is set up, they're mapped to our Britannica school product. However, we are working to map these to our Britannica library product as well. I think it is something that folks can really pull from these more fully fleshed out activities to really help students, to help patrons, to help librarians really engage with some of these extension activities, and provide kind of a really nice overview for key concepts that you're going to be teaching as part of your programs here as well. So Christy, anything to share? I know we'll go through one in just a little bit, but anything additional to share about the lesson minis here?
I think there's something great for each age group. Our early elementary lesson minis really have some of those interactive activities that, I know Catherine and Kathleen were looking for in our chat. Our middle school and high school, which is coming soon. Our high school should be out shortly, which is exciting. Really focus on the research process and identifying activities to support students with the various phases. We have some great lesson minis on biographies. Like Chris said, although they are aligned to B School currently, they all connect back to articles that are in our database that really, we strongly encourage you to look at these minis and kind of select those activities that would really align to meet the needs of your patrons.
So, all right, well, let's go ahead and jump in. So here's just kind of an overview of some of the different types of activities you'll see here. Again, really flexible ideas for differentiation, variation, and working with many different groups. So let's go ahead and take a look at how all of this works. So I'm going to continue to drive the slides here, but I'm going to let Christy walk through this activity with all of us here for places in our community.
Sure. So an example we picked for you today is from our early learners mini selection entitled Places in Our Community. And we were really excited to pick this because there's a featured activity on library. The mini focuses on libraries, fire stations, and hospitals. You can see here that there's 3 activities in this mini, and that's done intentionally so that you can kind of pick and choose the pieces of a mini that really align with your desired learning outcomes and your audience. They don't have to be taught consecutively. They can be taught in whatever order or standalone that you prefer. So in this mini, as I mentioned, you can see there's 3 activities, one on library, the green one is on fire stations, and then on hospitals. And I wanted to focus on the library today so that you can see how it really could lend itself nicely to a workshop that could be offered in the library. It focuses on libraries and their community impact in particular, as our younger learners are starting to familiarize themselves with the concept of community and places in our community. So this activity in short kind of starts with an initial discussion about library experiences, but then it segues into those hands-on activities, which I know some of you mentioned in the chat you're really looking for. In this library activity, there's 4 resources. So all of the resources that you will need to conduct any of the activities in our lesson minis are embedded for you. So if there's accompanying printables or graphic organizers, or if it ties back to an instructional strategy, all of that is linked for you conveniently in there. And any additional supplies are basic supplies that we would expect most to have, like crayons, markers, some construction paper. But after that, it'll go into a series of implementation steps, and they're usually about 10 steps to walk you through how to execute that activity and start from start to finish with a closure. The library article in this, which is the foundation of the impetus for the design behind this, connects to the article in your database. It also has a vocabulary handout, which connects to those keywords in that article. It has a graphic organizer to kind of collect student thinking. And it also has a really, really nice library template, which we're going to talk to you a little bit more on the next slide about how you can use those resources in this mini. But as an overview from start to finish, students will move through understanding basic library concepts to actively experiencing library operations through creative play. And it concludes with a fun activity and discussion about the importance of library and their roles in our community. So You can see the three main resources on this slide, but I want to show you those a little bit closer, some worked examples on our next slide. And what you see here are those three filled in examples for us. So when we look at these three resources, keep in mind that the beauty of this design, as I mentioned, for these activities, you can pick and choose which work best for you. If you like just, using the supporting handout, or you like using the library card template or the bubble web, you don't have to use all three. They can be used independently. The bubble web graphic organizer is really a nice early learner format with simple circles and clear texting there to help students really organize their thinking with you about why library matters. So taking students' responses and creating a bubble web display in your library following a workshop would be a really nice way of showcasing student voice while creating an interactive bulletin board or display in the library that really encourages our young patrons to think about and appreciate the library's role in the community. And they could fill these out individually in small groups or kind of collectively. The next shows a library vocab handout, which we created to specifically accompany the article in the database on library. It's a reinforcement handout. It combines pictures and fill in the blank word exercises for our pre-K to second grade students. It focuses on key vocab of the article, and this specific type of reinforcement really helps our young learners connect those key words that we want them to walk away with from this activity: library, puzzles, movies, and it connects with visual representation. So it makes the vocab learning both engaging and memorable for students. And I was thinking of a creative way to display these would be putting them alongside some other picture books that you select into a curation that can feature some of these words and sort of create a learning wall that represents and reinforces these key terms and really celebrates student work. I think it's a really wonderful way to showcase samples of student work around the early learner books in your library so that they can see their work as they're coming in. And lastly, the library card. I love this one. It really provides a creative, personalized component where children can write their name, the name of their library, they can draw their own little self-portrait, and it really helps them feel a sense of ownership and excitement about getting that first library card, but really helping them understand how a real library card functions. The library card template that you see here, it provides a creative and more personalized component where they're filling out their information. And we designed this because it really gives students a sense of that ownership before they get that first library card and have that initial responsibility. And we help build that excitement. This is a really fun hands-on activity that students can cut the front and back of and paste together. And it serves as I mentioned, for that perfect kind of stepping stone to getting that real library card. Kind of helps demystify the process for our young patrons and build that excitement about library membership and gives them practice with that responsibility before taking that first step. And I thought, what a fun way or fun extension for you to kind of put these around the library and display our future library card holders in a fun and exciting way to encourage other families and patrons to take the step in getting their children their own real library cards. So lots of fun ways to include these in some engaging ways for your kiddos.
Awesome. Thank you, Christy. And I love it. As you're talking, I just have so many ideas and ways that this could be incorporated. And, as part of community helpers days, I know that our library does that a lot where, they bring in, conversations with the fire chief and, have not just kids, but adults as well come and talk to, people in the community, but having these as kind of some supportive graphic organizers to help reinforce those concepts and reinforce those conversations can certainly be really helpful. So thank you for sharing that. So what I want to do is give you an opportunity here to take a look in Teach Britannica. And there's a couple ways that you can get to Teach Britannica. The first we'll put here in the chat is just teachbritannica.com. Make sure I spell that right, so I'm not directing you to some other website. But if you click on the link that I just put in the chat, teachbritannica.com, it will take you directly to the Teach Britannica homepage. And that will, I can get back to my screen here. That will look like this. And so what you'll see here on the Teach Britannica homepage is all of our products. So you'll see Britannica School, all of the other Britannica products as well. I do know that some folks who are in the public library space, you may have Britannica School through a state or a local partnership. So you can access these resources through this place here. You can see the full list of all of our resources here, every instructional strategy and graphic organizer. The nice thing is that if I go into instructional strategies, I can filter for the K-12 grade level that I'm looking for, as well as the type of strategy that I'm trying to implement here. Lesson minis, which we just referenced here, these are tied currently to Britannica School. As I mentioned earlier, we will be mapping these to Britannica Library as well. So if you are a Britannica Library subscriber, you'll see a similar kind of breakdown here. But if I go into, let's say, Britannica School Elementary, these are our lesson minis. As Christy mentioned, and let me just show you a quick example here. All of this content is printable. All of this content is also able to be used digitally. And as I scroll into our activities here, we do provide any materials that you may need, links to graphic organizers and back to Britannica content, implementation steps for how this can be used as part of your programs, differentiation and variation for different groups, and then collaborative teaching. So if you're working in a group setting as well. So all of this content is evidence-based. It's been built by our team of subject matter experts to really tie into kind of key topics and key areas in education. The other way to get to Teach Britannica is directly from Britannica Library or Britannica School itself. So if I go into the children section here of Britannica Library, this may look familiar to some of you, where you can see our Britannica homepage and all of the content here in Britannica Library. If I click on this icon in the top right corner, you'll see this drop down. You can ignore the ones down here at the bottom, but the one right up here at the top is a link directly to Teach Britannica. And the nice thing is that right now I'm in Britannica Library children level. If I click on Teach Britannica, you'll see it takes me directly to the Britannica Library content here. So we have our instructional strategies and graphic organizers mapped to Britannica Library. I would also encourage you to take a look at those lesson minis that are mapped to Britannica School. So what I am going to do is go back into our presentation here. I'm going to go ahead and pause our recording and give folks about 5 minutes to go through and explore Teach Britannica a little bit. I know it can just kind of scratch the surface here, but we are at just about 10:30 Central Time. So at 10:35, we will come back together as a group and we'll ask for you to share your ideas, share out what you found, and then we'll talk about our action steps and move forward. All right, well, thank you for sharing. I do see another couple here. Any plans for adding things for older adults? We do have, if you look in our Britannica academic content, that is kind of built for post-secondary and focused on research and content there. But certainly something I think, Christy, we can bring back to the team to expand for lots of other groups as well. So thank you. Appreciate the feedback there.
Yeah, and Stacy, if there's anything in particular you have in mind for this specific group, I'd love to hear from that. We can pop in our email in the chat for you, and I'd love to talk more about that as well.
Awesome. And thank you, Mark, for the feedback. Yeah, the kind of adjustable levels, trying to make it as flexible as possible. So appreciate the feedback there. All right, so as we kind of wrap up our session today, we have some next steps for you. So as you're kind of thinking through how you can try to incorporate some of this content here, we would ask that you bookmark Teach Britannica for easy access. Again, we tried to make it as easy as possible to remember, but teachbritannica.com, just make sure that we have that as easy to get to as we can. We'd ask that you try to incorporate a new resource type before our next session, if you're going to be joining us for our future webinars as well. And then, as always, share out. If you have successful implementations with colleagues, please feel free to share those. If you ever want to share anything with us, I'll put our training inbox in the chat here as well, so you can always reach out to me and my team. But follow us on social too. Our social media team is doing a lot of work to really highlight a lot of this content. They're doing free resource Fridays. So every Friday they'll post a new free resource to our Instagram and all of our social accounts, and share some strategies for how to incorporate those as well. So please, we're trying to do our best to make this as accessible and easy to find as possible. We have links to lesson minis as well. I know Christy has put those in the chat. So again, the worked example for the library ties with our Britannica School early elementary content, but you will see a lot of additional content there as well. And again, things that can be flexibly implemented and utilized in the library media center. We have some upcoming sessions, so if you liked the vibe that Christy and I had here today, we will be doing another session next week on Election Day at 10 a.m. Central Time about cross-curricular learning. So really bringing in some additional content and other Britannica resources and how that pairs with Teach Britannica. And then November 12th, we have our Boost Student Research with Teach Britannica Toolkits, which focuses a lot on the Britannica academic and the post-secondary market as well. So if there's any additional questions that folks had, I know we had some questions, comments in the chat as well, but please feel free to put your feedback here. And I'm going to go ahead and stop our recording and say thank you to everyone who joined us today. Really appreciate you taking some time out of your day to join Christy and I and talk through Teach Britannica. So we hope that you got something out of it, and we have our contact info in the chat as well. So we'll stick around for a little bit if you have any questions, but if you feel like you want to drop, please feel free to go on your way and have a great rest of your day.